think, man? How do you feel about the
We're
Canucks
down
getting
one. Perfect, baby.
Yeah. We may have scored first, but at least we're down by 1 after the first, right?
Oh, you gotta find some silver lining.
Well, it's that thing, right? Like we talked about this early in the season. It's like, oh my gosh, like the Canucks always just look bad on the power play. Like they a lot of the time they were getting outshot on the power play. It's absolutely nuts. So I guess we'll start off by saying that's probably your first down is the power play.
Well, the power play overall wasn't that bad. Had a couple of good chances. Besser almost had a goal there, but what a bad pinch by Garland. You can't make that play with the rolling puck on that one. You just got to back off and know that that guy's behind you. He knew Thomas was behind him. Thomas is a dangerous shooter, so that's just a very poor judgment call by Garland. Would have been nice to get the equalizer back or be up after that, but giving up a shorthanded breakaway on a goalie just making his return from injury is not always the best strategy. And on the first one that St. Louis got, that's probably a little bit of rust on Demko playing the puck. Not so much the shot. It was a really good one-timer shot, but the way he kind of shot it up the boards, he shot it past Myers right to the St. Louis player, which normally he maybe should have just stopped that one behind the net and let the defenseman come to it. So just a couple little hiccups there. It was nice to see Garland and Joshua connect for a goal there, so that's an up. Hopefully those guys can get hot again and find some of the magic they had last season. Overall, not a horrible period, but definitely the two mistakes we made, St. Louis made us pay for it.
That's what happens in the league. There is no bad teams, and people thought, oh no, it's the St. Louis. We should be able to take them out. But if you look at it, like I said in the pregame, they have the exact same record in the last 10 games as the Canucks do, and they've got a lot of guys like Rob Thomas who can do things to you. Um, what do you
Yep,
think
and they're all
about the?
freshly energized, right, with a new coach and stuff. So
I think my favorite quote from Shorty so far tonight was like, "You knew it was going to be Connor Garland to Dakota Joshua for his first one." So it's nice to see him finally get his first one of the year.
yep, absolutely. That's great. It was really nice to see after everything he's been through. He's worked hard to get back in the lineup. He's been working hard the last few games. We've talked about it. It looks like he's been close to getting one and breaking through, and so it's really nice to see him rewarded with one early on in the game. Hopefully, we can tie it up here quick in the second, and no harm, no foul.
I was gonna say probably my up was the fact that I think you can probably say all 4 lines were clicking. Like there wasn't one that really stood out that was looking rough. So and they were rolling all 4 lines and Ratu threw a hit right at the end there, and that's something you see him do too, right? He had 4 St. Louis Blues coming after him, and you love to see that kind of anger from the other team when your guy hits like that. So um,
Yeah, he appears to be getting under their skin a little bit. He ate a couple cross checks off one of the faceoffs he won there as well. I think he rattles a few cages with the way he faces off with flipping his backhand to his strong hand. I don't think that other centers are a fan of that strategy when they lose a face-off to that. So I think he gets slashed or cross-checked a little more often than other players do when in those battles.
do you think that other centers are going to start looking at and be like, maybe I need to start trying that, or is that something that's just going to be a Ratu thing?
Given the consistency that he finds with it and the percentages that he's been putting up in the face-off dot, why wouldn't you try it? However, it isn't necessarily something everyone can do. Not all players are that ambidextrous. So, a lot of guys have gone their whole life learning how to win it on the backhand or win on the forehand, and it's a completely different style for them. Whereas Ratu just turns everything into a strong hand, which is very impressive and obviously a rare skill in the NHL.
Are you ever worried when he does that that's going to end up causing trouble? Because obviously, if you're flipping your stick over, once you win the face off, you're going to have to take that second to flip it back over. Or is that something that really doesn't worry you?
I think maybe in a perfect storm that could probably hinder him off like a bang bang play, but I think he's pretty cognizant of when he should or shouldn't do it. I don't know that he does it absolutely every single time. I think there's specific situations that he does it in. So, based off of his track record so far, he's been pretty much our best faceoff guy since Miller's been out. So, can't really fault the guy for the technique that he's using if it's working.
Yeah. Well, let's hop on to the next one because everyone wants to talk about it. We can finally stop talking about when he's going to play and talk about the fact that he did play. Thatch Demko is back in the net. How's that feel for the Canucks?
Oh, it's great to see him back leading the team out at our warm ups there and at the beginning of the game. I found it odd that he hadn't started yet. Being deemed healthy enough to back up. Obviously, there's the routine argument for last game with not wanting to start him in an afternoon game, but the game before that, he was one bump away from having to go into the game fully cold, which really should be a cause for concern. You would have wanted him maybe to start the first game he was coming back in so he can get back into the swing of things. Obviously, it's a moot point now that he's in the game and getting going, but they were rolling the dice a little bit on that one. Obviously, hopefully, he can bring the Vesna form that we hope he can find and that he knows and expects from himself in short order here. And I know he's been working hard, pushing himself, and feels ready. So hopefully, the rust, what little rust we see, shakes off quick, and he gets the communication back with his defenseman out there, and we just see him pick up where he left off before the knee became a problem.
How much were you like? Were you like holding your breath when he went down right at the start there?
That
Just
was I was holding my breath and saying a lot of swear words about Radek Faska
yeah.
because what a dirty little slew foot trip that was. He knew what he was doing,
Oh yeah.
and hopefully that clip gets played in the intermission here and fires up the boys because that's something that should not be tolerated by anyone on the Canucks team. And I hope Hofer has his head up for the rest of the game because there should be some retribution for that. You go after a guy who's coming off of a leg injury and you slew foot him like that on a cheap, dirty little shot. I would not be happy if my teammate went through something like that.
Yeah. Is it pretty much for his like 20 minutes of play, pretty much what you thought you'd see from Demko? Just kind of like decent, not maybe his best period ever, but still kind of just shaking off the rust.
Yeah, I mean, he looks great positionally. He hasn't really made any moments of where it's like, oh no, that looks horrible. Obviously, a one-timer goal that got through him, and then a breakaway, just a really great shot, high blocker side. It just inside the post. That's just a really good goal scorer's goal. So overall, haven't seen anything to be worried about yet. Uh, Obviously, we got to give it some time and see where he is at. See if he starts to labor throughout the game, or if he continues to play well. And if we get some of those great save Demko calls out of Shorty, it'd be really nice.
So moving on to the next guy we don't want to talk about when he's going to play anymore is Miller, who was actually on the ice in the warm up for the Canucks this morning. They got a full practice tomorrow. So we're thinking, he might start sometime this week. What will that mean to this Canucks lineup? Because it kind of feels like you add that one last piece in and then everyone kind of falls into where we expected them to be. Is that going to have a big impact once JT Miller gets back in the lineup? Or do you think they'll start him on the fourth line or something like that?
I think he goes right back into where he was at. I think remember JT kind of missed all the preseason games. He was nursing some injury and stuff there, so I'm thinking there might have been some of that with all of this. Um, the year didn't start the way he wanted to. Mentally, he was in a tough place with all the pressure he puts on himself. So hopefully, this rejuvenates all the boys as well. I'm sure he has some close friends on the team that were obviously worried about him and his personal life. That can weigh on anybody, on friends, and that when people go through personal struggles. It was clear watching the clips of him on the ice today that there's obviously no animosity or anything like that. He's fully supported. Out there talking with teammates, talking about strategy things and good back and forth. Looks like he was happy to be out there and looks fresh. It's unfortunate that a personal matter became so public. It kind of comes with the territory with the NHL and also with playing in a market like Vancouver where there's constant scrutiny and constant judgment on everything and anything that you do. As fans, we tend to put celebrities and athletes on a pedestal. We've talked about it kind of before. We tend to forget that they're just kids and expect them not to have like real problems, but they have lives just like us. I mean, every day anything could change. I myself had some struggles last year, right? Like, there's personal stuff we all go through. Just because they get millions of dollars doesn't mean that life stops and that they live differently than any one of us. They have kids, they have parents, they have brothers, sisters, all walks of life. So anything can happen at any given moment, and to expect them to just go out and play and push that aside is a bit much for us as fans. I think we just need to be patient and be happy to see him back on the ice. And when he's ready to play, we just need to be ready to chant his name.
Yeah, it's nice that the fans have been practicing that chant even before he gets back in the lineup.
For sure.
So the next one is Hughes, where it's a Hughes versus Makar kind of thing, because you sent me a quote from ESPN, which are they have the worst takes ever on ESPN. Like essentially the quote was that Cale Makar is skating circles around everybody offensively, and that he's the clear consensus for the Norris Trophy, which is absolutely insane. How does that make you feel when you see that kind of nonsense coming out of ESPN?
Frustrates the hell out of me. You've heard me talk about Makar being a McKinnon merchant before, and you sent me a graphic off of Reddit
Boom,
that
on the screen.
illustrates it perfectly. It just shows you that Makar benefits from McKinnon being on the ice, and when McKinnon isn't on the ice, all of his stats start to drop. Whereas Hughes makes everyone better at any given time. It doesn't matter who's on the ice, doesn't matter who he's playing with or partnered with. We saw it last game, how incredibly screwed we are if he misses any substantial time. That chunk where he had to go get the repairs done and get the bubble put on, we looked disjointed. Our power play was lost. We had no one to quarterback it, no one to carry the puck. Our breakout was stuck. We basically looked like we had an AHL blue line out there.
Mm-hmm.
So for when that happens, when one player is that important to a team, that's when you start talking about the Hart Trophy and how without him we would not be where we're at. Like this whole season, throughout the injuries, distractions, everything that's gone on, Hughes has been the constant. He has not wavered at all. He's elevated his game. He's played better than he did last year, and he just keeps going and keeps getting better. And so when I hear those Eastern journalists and stuff like that, and the American guys put Makar so far ahead of Hughes, it just makes me shake my head and wonder what stats they're looking at, what games they're watching, what highlights they're watching. Yeah, Makar's a great player. Don't get me wrong. I am not discounting the fact that he is very high up there as a Norris Trophy candidate. But when you compare Hughes to Makar, there's a very big glaring reason why Makar has the success he has, whereas Hughes has generated his own success through his own abilities and desire to be better.
I'll pop those stats up just for everyone again. So Makar with McKinnon, he's got 64%, 61%, 64%. And then without McKinnon on the ice, that drops down to 43, 42, 42. And the interesting thing about this one is everyone else without McKinnon, their stats drop off too, but not as extensively. Theirs only dropped to 53, 55, 51. So quite a big. The one thing I did want to say, because this is all coming from Jay Fresh, who's a great guy if you want to follow him on Twitter. The one thing he said is he's not a merchant in that this season, unlike last season, McKinnon is also ass without Makar with him. They're each other's merchants. So last season, very clearly he was a McKinnon merchant. He's still a McKinnon merchant, but apparently they're McKinnon merchants for each other. So, but yeah, I mean, it's very clear that, and you just look at the plus minus too, right? I think Quinn Hughes right now is a +9 and Cale Makar is like a 0 or a -1, right? So if you want to bring that stat in there as well, it's very clear. But I hear that's the solution, right? We give Hughes gets the Hart, and then McKinnon can and Makar can just have the Norris.
Sure, for compromise.
Yeah. Okay, let's hop on over to the Abbey Canucks. They just had their the second game against Colorado on Sunday, with
Yes.
Shelov starting in net.
Yeah, so they backed up their 6-1 victory on Saturday night with another solid 5-2 victory Sunday afternoon. They opened the scoring on the power play with Christian Wolanin getting his first of the season from the point. Nice shot to break that open, and we had Lek Aramaki getting another 2 goals. That gave him 4 in the back-to-back, and he's now second in rookie AHL scoring in not so many games played, which is pretty impressive the way he's been able to find a scoring touchdown there. And hopefully it continues, and maybe we'll see him back up with the big club here very soon. Really, the only unfortunate thing that happened in this game was a bounce. A bounce in the third period ended up in our net on a delayed penalty call.
Yeah,
Late in
hilarious.
the third to make it 5-2. So, um, Shilov's looked pretty solid, but wasn't really tested. He only faced 17 shots on the night and stopped 16. The defensively, the team looks incredible. The penalty kill killed all 8 penalties that we took on the weekend. So Jet Wu getting back in the lineup really solidified that. And yeah, with the weekend sweep, we now sit third in the Pacific Division. So that was 2 important games to take off of Colorado, who were sitting just above us at that time, and now we've jumped them 2 spots. So overall, a very good, productive weekend. Really good stuff out of Lek Aramaki. Actually, DP had an incredible second game, 3 assists in game 2 on Sunday there as well. So really good stuff starting to come out of Abbotsford. They're really starting to find their structure and their line combinations, and they really drive the play. They're fun to watch. I'd highly recommend anyone out in that area getting out and watching them here during December. They got a long homestand. The next game coming up, I believe, is the Teddy Bear Toss game, so that's always a fun night. If you want to get out and support the boys, I'd recommend it. They're starting to look real good, and we got a lot of real good young talent out there in Abbey.
Yeah, Teddy Bear Toss Saturday, December 14th at 7 o'clock, and then if you can't make that one, they play the next day, Sunday, December 15th at 4 p.m. Both games against the former AHL affiliate of the Vancouver Canucks, the Manitoba Moose. Remember those games back in the day, the Abbotsford Heat versus the Manitoba Moose? Those were the most fun games to go see.
Yeah, Looney Tooney Dog and Brew Nights.
Ooh, yeah. Awesome, brother. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you again in the second, for the post-game show.
Absolutely.
Nothing is perfect.